Josh is a state champ wrestler who we've seen throw around strangers on the beach and win double gold in a gi jiu-jitsu tournament.
A gi tournament?
But how does a wrestler of his caliber stack up in no-gi jiu-jitsu? Everybody knows wrestling is a great base for jiu-jitsu, especially no-gi jiu-jitsu. But where exactly does a state champ wrestler's skill level fall on the jiu-jitsu rank spectrum? And how would he do against a black belt? To answer these questions, Josh will be facing off against every jiu-jitsu belt from white belt all the way up to the final boss at black belt. And to spice things up, I've hand-selected each opponent to give Josh as difficult a match as possible. Starting off with our white belt representative, Nicholas. Not only is Nicholas twice Josh's size, but as you can tell by how light he is on his feet, he also did some wrestling in high school, and he's trained jiu-jitsu for about a year. If I'm Josh, and this dude is the first of 5 bosses, I'd be scared of what's to come. But this isn't Josh's first rodeo, and he times the step to get the single leg takedown. If you saw Josh's competition video, you know that passing guard isn't exactly his strong suit. He's done about 20 jiu-jitsu classes in his life, but he doesn't actively train. So while he's had some time to adapt his wrestling to avoid bad positions and fit a couple of tricks up his sleeve, when it comes to jiu-jitsu specific skills like guard passing, he usually just ends up having to do more wrestling, which almost always results in Josh winning some sort of scramble, maintaining top position, and re-entering the unfamiliar world of guard passing. But this time, Josh is able to make Nicholas carry his weight, and he's able to scoot around his frames to pass the guard. Nicholas bridges in an attempt to escape, but gives up his arm in the process. Then he forces Josh to roll, but Josh is able to hold on and finish the belly down armbar. It's no surprise that Josh's level of submission grappling surpasses that of a white belt. But what about a blue belt? Well, as you can tell by Austin immediately pulling guard, he doesn't have any formal wrestling experience, but he has trained jiu-jitsu for about 2 years, and to his credit, he's pretty darn good. And he almost gets Josh with the X-guard sweep, but Josh pops right back up to his feet, and then he goes for a dummy sweep and gets the exact same result. We've established that approaching the guard is uncomfortable for Josh, but something he's very comfortable with is controlling the head, which leads to him flattening Austin out, isolating an arm, passing the guard, and establishing mount. And this next sequence speaks for itself.
Nice. I was not expecting that.
I need to reiterate that Josh does not actively train jiu-jitsu, so it was really surprising to see him snap into a submission like that. I asked him later how he got his armbar so smooth, having only done about 20 jiu-jitsu classes, and he says it's from watching MMA and just visualizing it. So wrestling isn't just a physical advantage for Josh, but it's also taught him how to learn efficiently. And that's why Josh is the perfect case study for this experiment. He has the perfect amount of experience to represent the level of submission grappling that a wrestler can achieve after just a couple of months of jiu-jitsu. But there's one area of jiu-jitsu in particular that's kryptonite for wrestlers: leg locks, which was Austin's game plan before the roll even started. And like most wrestlers, Josh is completely unfamiliar with the leg game. But he does know that if he gets to his feet and stacks Austin on his head, he's probably safe. He also knows that he's way stronger than Austin, which he uses to pin Austin's wrist to the mat and finish the Kimura.
You're getting pieced up, Austin.
And then for the first time all round, Austin's able to wrestle up and get into top position where he fulfills his own prophecy. With the exception of getting submitted by a technique he knows nothing about, Josh dominated the entire round. So with leg locks as the exception, I think we can agree that he's at least as good as most blue belts. But what about someone who can wrestle and do jiu-jitsu? Well, lucky for you, our purple belt representative is me. I know, I'm just a blue belt. To be honest, I couldn't find a purple belt to roll with Josh, but since I have more experience than Austin and less experience than the brown belt that's coming up next, I think it's appropriate to put myself between them just for the purpose of this video. And let's face it, we all want to watch Josh and I try to kill each other. And since we're good friends, you get the added benefit of listening to us talk trash while we do it.
Have you ever seen my knee trick? Chow. Like something that happens really fast.
We also set a really fast pace, and we're super physical in the hand fight. And we follow zero jiu-jitsu etiquette. Normally, you would reset if you get too close to the wall, but Josh and I pretend to be MMA fighters instead. Unfortunately for him, he lands in a guillotine. I'm not in a great position to finish, but Josh doesn't know the defense and falls victim to handing his neck to another man.
See what I mean?
Josh and I are good at a lot of the same things, not only because we both wrestled, but we also had the same coach. And one thing he instilled in us was to never allow your opponent to control your head. You can see that as Josh reaches, I constantly roll my head and circle my feet to prevent him from making connection. I try to be slick and hit Josh with the same foot sweep I got him with before, but he's not going to fall for the same trick twice, and he gets me with the lat drop. I try to wrestle up, but end up getting stuck in a front headlock and eventually decide to go back to playing guard. I go to single leg X and then transition to an ugly version of backside 50-50, where I have an opportunity to get Josh with a toe hold, but I don't really know what I'm doing here, so I just let go to keep things safe. But apparently, the feeling is not mutual, because Josh picks me up while I'm inverted and almost drops me on my head.
Bruh.
But at least I finally have enough space to build height and end the roll on a high note.
Fight hands.
Unfortunately for Josh, a higher level blue belt may be as far as his wrestling gets him on the jiu-jitsu rank spectrum, but we still haven't seen him go against anyone super high level. Introducing John, the brown belt who's about to make Josh look like a pink belt. And then we have the black belt in the grand finale. But first, I'd like to thank the sponsor of this video, Raycon. I've been using their everyday earbuds for a few weeks now, and I seriously love these things. You get 32 hours of battery life between the headphones and the charging case, which comes in a variety of colorways, which has been perfect while I've been doing a ton of biking for an upcoming video series. I know I can rely on them to get me through a workout regardless of how long it is. And trust me, I'm doing some stupid long workouts. They're also water resistant, so you don't need to worry about whether or not it's raining or how much you're gonna sweat, which is really nice when your gym has no AC and you're basically a human waterfall. But my favorite feature might be that you can connect them to two devices at the same time. So when I'm editing on my laptop and need to check something on my phone, the audio seamlessly switches from one device to the next. These are genuinely some of the best wireless headphones on the market. You can grab yourself a pair at buyraycon.com/Giuliano, and if you don't love them, you can send them back with their 30-day happiness guarantee. Thank you, Raycon, for the sponsor. Now back to the video. John doesn't have a wrestling background, but unlike Austin and I, he can at least match Josh in size and strength. Josh technically finishes the takedown, but lands in another guillotine. And when he fights out of it, he wakes up in a triangle.
Oh, the transition.
John grabs his shin to lock up the triangle, but as soon as he does, Josh slips out. John inverts his way into another triangle, and as Josh postures up, he enters into the legs. But instead of using the dark arts against him, he uses the threat of submission to take the back. And as Josh rolls, John finds an Americana from the back to finish him off. One of the least talked about adjustments that wrestlers have to make when entering jiu-jitsu is the style and pace of training. Wrestling training is a hard-nosed, pedal-to-the-metal, constant grind. And the same is true for competition training in jiu-jitsu. But because of the nature of submission grappling, where you're in positions that could break someone's limbs, as opposed to wrestling where the main objective is control, it's for everyone's safety that wrestlers learn to channel their bloodlust into a more tactical approach. I understand that may seem silly when you're a wrestler and you can just crush everyone with speed and power. But by playing the jiu-jitsu game, you'll not only progress faster, but you're also bound to come across someone like John, who, after they realize you're exploding out of every submission, will no longer give you the benefit of putting them on slowly.
You like to slip. I got it.
Josh comes back with a beautiful high crotch, and after another triangle attempt, John sweeps him over, forcing Josh to play guard, making him the first person up to this point to force Josh to take bottom position. But it doesn't last long as the round ends and Josh moves on to face the final boss, Patrick, in the much anticipated state champ versus black belt matchup. Patrick wrestled for 1 year in high school, but that's not what earned him his black belt. He has great guard passing and top pressure, and he can attack from pretty much any position. He gets Josh with the butterfly sweep. Even though Josh is fighting for his life to get back to any position other than flat on his back, Patrick changed together his guard passing to maintain top position and keep Josh exactly where he wants him. Then with crushing top pressure, he steps over the head to begin working towards an armbar. I can speak from personal experience that Patrick is really good here, and to his credit, he could use a bicep slicer or do an explosive deadlift to disconnect Josh's hands. But instead, he's playing the jiu-jitsu game, taking his time, and letting Josh tire out his arms. The only problem is Josh's arms don't get tired, and the second there's an opening, he rips his way out. Patrick gets back on top with another butterfly sweep, and then uses a body lock to pass the guard. Josh frames and bridges for the next minute and a half and still finds himself stuck on bottom. Josh isn't one for moral victories, but he'll flip this entire experiment upside down if he survives a little longer and goes an entire round against a black belt without being submitted. And just as I say that, Patrick starts walking up the underhook and looking for an arm triangle. It looks like Josh won't be able to avoid the inevitable, until he bridges as hard as he can to get back on top. But Patrick isn't going down easy. He elevates Josh's hips, enters into saddle, and catches Josh's heel. And with slow and controlled pressure, gets Josh with the heel hook just before time expires. So how would a state champ wrestler do against a black belt? Well, in a pure jiu-jitsu setting, he'll probably get tapped, but that doesn't mean he won't give him hell. Please consider liking this video and subscribing to help me reach my goal of 100K by the end of the year, and check the description for more videos with Josh.